All right, welcome back everybody. So today I'm out at the range and there is a ton of noise around me. There is a brand new bird's nest up here with some birds just chirping away. And then on the range next to us, I got a bunch of yahoos who think that accuracy by volume is the best way to go about things. And so they have just nonstop been blasting for the last 30 or 40 minutes, and I don't know when they're gonna run out of ammo. But what I'm out here to do today is I pressed a bunch of round nose dish based slugs, and these are 33.6 grains, so right about 33.5. And I just wanted to see how these would do versus the hollow point version that I had pressed before in a similar weight. And these are in the 217 diameter instead of the 218s. So kind of two different things I wanted to test there: diameter and the round nose on the dish base. So I have some paper targets out at 50 and 100. Depending on how they do at 50, I'll probably push it out, but if they're not grouping well, then there's no point really. So I've got the chronograph set up, and I'm just curious to see how these will do versus the other versions that I had been making. I had been really trying to get a boat tail to work, and I'm still working on that. The 33.5 and 34.5 hollow point dish bases have been working fantastically out of my Panthera, and so I kind of wanted to try this with the Leopard because I'm really loving this platform. It's kind of a mishmash of kind of both systems, best of both worlds kind of. So you have kind of a half DRS, half dynamic block situation going on. So obviously you have the air around the barrel, which is stiffened up, and it gives you that air capacity in the front. So 310 cc's up in the front, and then I have a 580 cc bottle, which is 890 total. So just a ton of onboard air. Obviously it's a bullpup, more like an impact or a wildcat would be, but the back of the air gun is more like a dynamic block because you have the quick tune system, and it takes the dynamic block size magazines, which is a huge plus for me because obviously I like to do a lot of different slug and ammo testing, and having that extra length is really great, especially for the boat tails, because those tend to be a little bit longer than the other slugs. So I'm really happy about that because my DRS Pro is kind of limited on the length of projectiles I can put in there. Really great at shooting those like 34 grains with plenty of shot count for any of the matches I've been in, so it's not that big of a deal. It's just something I like to note, and obviously it's just more of a thing to compare because this has so much air on board compared to that. Even compared to the Panthera, this is, you know, almost 3 times as much. Yeah, almost 3 times, a little bit less, but it's, you know, this is a lot of air. So I really love this. I really love this thing so far. The plenum is a bit small, and a lot of people have been talking about that, but it's really efficient. So that's one thing I noticed when the DRS Tactical came out, was that new plenum it's really efficient. I got super high shot count out of that thing for the air capacity that it had. So it hasn't been an issue so far. The only thing that I would love to see improved with the Leopard is some internal upgrades. So like a pin probe and a heavier hammer or spring combination, so that we can get a little bit more velocity out of this thing. And then I would love a lower rail, some kind of ARCA with some M-lock on the sides for some weights and stuff like that. I would love to get this thing... I would love to get this thing balanced out to more of a forward heavy position, so it was a little bit more balanced, but it's really not that bad. A lot of the weight is in the butt, obviously, so when you're carrying it around and stuff, it's really nice, but I would love to compete with this in some kind of fashion, and I think it'd be really fun to try out in NRL 22, but I would just need that some kind of rail so I can put the bipod a lot further forward, and a little bit of weight. It's definitely going to help just weight overall, help stabilize it out, and then if it could balance a little bit more forward, that'd be fantastic. So those are just like the 2 little things that I can't wait for it to get upgraded with. And then once those come out, this thing is going to be so awesome. So I'm super stoked about this. So let's get testing. I got the mag loaded up. I got these mama and daddy bird out here in front of me, pissed off that I'm by their nest. So hopefully they don't try to peck me or anything. They can be a little bit aggressive. It just sounds kind of funny when I say it like that. But another thing is they moved the safety up into the front end. That is kind of interesting to get used to, but it's nice because it's not as bumpable, if that makes sense. It's really out of the way because I have knocked the safety while competing with the Pantera. Knocked it into safe on accident and then had a dead trigger. So it is nice that this is up here and it's very tactile, which is really nice. All right, so I'm just going to get an initial kind of probably 3-shot group. All right, so I'm going for this top left target right now. By 92. So a little 4-shot group there, kind of threw it. I'll put a 5th one in there. Oh, high. So those were averaging out at 995. Bump this down a little bit. All right, so I bumped the big wheel 3 notches. Let's see where that goes. So starting a new string. Starting a new string. Okay. Oh, and then I sometimes forget, but I write down all of the targets on here and I write down the velocity at least. So when I try to dial in the speed, I know what target I'm looking at. So that was the top left one, so I'm just going to mark it there. So I'm going for the top middle. So an average of 988. That group was worse. All right, so this is the 3rd group, going for the top right one. All right, so that group was about 955. And the shape was similar to the 2nd group that I shot, so I know that it's not really getting any better. So now what I'm going to do is just go back to the settings of the 1st group, shoot another one, and then I'm going to probably go up and see what that does. So I need to remember to start a new string so I don't have a crazy variance again here. Something to remember too is when you're adjusting the quick tune system, it needs to be decocked. So the way you do that is you should pull the hammer, the charging handle back, put your hand on the trigger and pull it, and that will decock it. Then you can go back into safe and stuff like that. But that is how you do it. You don't want to do it while it is charged because you'll mess everything up back here. It's pretty bad, and I'm gonna adjust this back up to basically the max gain and load some more rounds. So I've been having some weird luck with some pests lately. Last week I had a huge rat come into our yard that I was able to catch and dispose of. My son saw it first. He said, "Dad, there's a huge mouse." He's only 4 years old, so he doesn't really know the distinction between a mouse and a rat, but he just thought it was a huge mouse that he saw running. And I really didn't think anything of it until my dog started going and sniffing around, and then I kind of realized something was actually probably over there. But it was just kind of funny. So I got rid of that, and then a few days later, last night, we had a bunch of baby possums wandering around looking for their mom, which unfortunately had probably deceased. So I rounded up all of those little guys, caught them all. But they sure are cute, but when they grow up, they are extremely aggressive. At least in my experiences. But I think they would be super cool if you could domesticate them, because they're just kind of fun looking. They have kind of a fun demeanor, but they are not house pets. Man, these people in the other range are just wasting ammo. I mean, they're just doing like a burn down test or something stupid. I mean, I guess it's not stupid to them. I just don't have the money to be blasting off like that. That's why air guns has been so interesting to me, because of the cost factor. Alright, so I went back to the stock settings that I had it at for the first group at 995, and then I bumped it up a few clicks on the micro wheel. And so this is going to be the middle left target. So not a great group. They're kind of split into two sections there. So I'm just going to go straight over to the next one and try again. Yeah, these are just not grouping very well. So just after that third shot, I mean, it's like a triangle. They're just really spread. The average was 1,002. So typically that would be enough to group a slug about this weight. So I know that these slugs are not a good match for this, at least these ones that I've pressed personally. So I did bring a bunch of other slugs down here with me, so I'll probably give some of those a try since I am here really quick, but this is kind of how it goes. So these ones didn't really work out for me. I will press more weights and more sizes to find one that works well. I already know some that work well for this setup, but you know, I always like to have different ones to try out. So that is where I'll stop this part probably, unless I go shoot some more. But I'm going to get some other air guns out here and do some more testing and have some fun. So thanks for sticking around, guys. I'm really looking forward to testing this platform more, like I said, and I'm really stoked about it. So I will see you guys on the next one. Bye.